Now we can start.
Good afternoon, friends and colleagues. My name is Maholu Lebaka. I am a registered nurse, registered midwife, registered psychiatric nurse, as well as a registered nurse midwife. I come from Lesotho, where I am working at the Ministry of Health as the Director of Nursing Services. I want to share with you a very beautiful story of how I got to where I am. I started off as a very small girl, growing up in a very rural area, and my mother was a nurse and one of those popular nurses. I then loved nursing from as early as 3 years old. I used to play house, and mostly I would role play as a nurse. I think this was fueled by the fact that when I grew up in the village where I was, it was very slopey, and most of my friends and me would run and fall, and most times I was the one who would do the first aid. I would tear my dress and do the dressings so that we stopped bleeding. And this went on and on and on until I went to high school. When I was in high school, there was this popular question that would be asked all the high school leavers: what do you want to do after you leave school? And my answer was positive all the time: I am going to be a nurse. And fortunately, as I said earlier on that my mother was a nurse, when I left high school, I had 6 months of stay at home, and it was during this time when a matron of the hospital where my mother worked, which was very far, extremely far from my own home, came home to come and pick my mother to go back to work, and she asked me, "Why are you seated here?" And then I had no answer except to say, "I'm awaiting the Form 5 results." Form 5 is the last year of high school in Lesotho. So what happened is I packed my bags and went with my mother to work in this very small hospital in a very rural area of Tibello. To get there, one has to take a bus, if there is a bus. If there were no buses, we would walk for at least 4 hours to get to that hospital. And before you get there, you had to cross a river by the name of Orange River, which is one of the biggest rivers, and we used a boat to cross. I think I really loved nursing because I stayed on as a ward attendant, earning 20 rand, which could be an equivalent of maybe $2, and I worked there for 3 years, from 1975 when I completed until 1977 when I went for my training as a nurse. I was trained in a Seventh-day Adventist college. The only thing that I liked most of that place is they did not only teach us nursing, they also taught us morals, they taught us discipline, they taught us to always ask God before we do everything. And that is where I think now I became one of the best nurses, because when I was doing my first year, I was awarded an award for best nurse. When I did my third year, I was awarded the top academic student award for being the top academic student in 3 countries. We wrote joint exams with Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland. You may be aware or not aware, colleagues, that these 3 countries were all under the British protectorate. So when the British left us, we had to come together. Hence, we wrote those joint examinations. And I must say, being a top academic student in the 3 countries gave me the popularity. When I went for my degree in nursing, I went to the University of Botswana. And because then Botswana was chairperson of the board, I was really cherished, I was loved, and I was always given the strength to persevere. When I finished, I completed my general nursing. I went into midwifery, And after midwifery, I went to work alone in a very rural clinic where I did almost everything. I was a consultant, I was a doctor, I was a nurse, I was everything. I was even a cleaner. So I worked alone there, but I must say I enjoyed myself because that is where I learned my competencies. That is where I sharpened my skills. That's where I loved to work with communities, because I would walk. If I missed any one of my clients, would it be a child for immunization, a mother for antenatal care, I would take my kid and walk for hours to go and find that one person whom I did not see in the register for that day. And that was lovely because I loved what I was doing. As we continued, I went and worked in a national referral hospital, a mental hospital, because I always loved the patients who were mostly disadvantaged. And as I was on training, I was aware that everybody or every patient would be taken care of except the mentally ill, either because people were scared of them, either because they were too dirty, people did not want to deal with them. But I felt these were the people that I needed to work with. And I worked in the mental hospital for 28 years. For those years that I've been there, I developed myself. I went for training in a diploma as a psychiatric nurse. I loved it. I passed with distinction, and even then I was given an award. Then I continued to work in the mental hospital. I went to work in the community-based care, and that is where I also developed love for community-based mental health services. So I went for a degree, and in my degree, though I was specializing in administration, most of my projects were to deal with community-based mental health. Coming back from school, I came and I initiated working with prisoners. Remember, I said I loved those people who were mostly disadvantaged. So I came back and I worked with, I initiated visiting the prisoners at least once a month. So I would go to the female prison, I would go to the male prison, but my main thrust was in children who were incarcerated, working in the juvenile training. So that is where I did most of my work. Seeing that there were people who did not know how to work with the children, what I did when I went for my master's degree, I did my specialty on child and adolescent mental health. So I was actually just trying to pump up the knowledge that I already had, or the love that I already had working with the children and the adolescents. So after I completed, I went back to work in the mental hospital, and here I did a lot with children. You know, initially children with mental disability or mental conditions were ignored because people did not know what to do. So coming back, I was able to teach in the schools, the teachers to identify from as a young age as the nursery school, to identify children with learning disabilities, to identify children with behavior disorders, and then they would refer them, or sometimes I would even go to the school and do play therapy with the children, because I'm also a trained play therapist. I would do play therapy with the children. If there's any gathering for the adolescents or for the youth, I would seize that opportunity. I gate crashed. I did not wait to be invited. So there, I would work with the youth. I would teach them everything about growing up. Because if you can imagine now, the parents no longer have much time that we did with our parents. There's a lot that disrupts that intact family that we used to grow up in. So while parents are working, both parents are working, because initially our parents never used to work. Our mothers would look after us while our fathers go to work. But now it's different. With modern civilization, women work, men work, children are left to fend for themselves. They are even left with the nannies, who sometimes abuse them. So this is the information that I would pass on. Not only did I do it formally, I also did it informally. If we were in any gathering, whether it's in a bus, in a taxi, or anywhere, with the women or with anybody, I would start giving even just a short lecture, because I have this philosophy that if you meet with anyone, just leave something that is constructive, just one sentence or one phrase that is constructive, then you will have made an impact in that person's life. Yes, I know you are curious to know, how did you become a director of nursing services? For a very long time, my predecessors in nursing or in the nursing profession have tried to knock at the doors of our principals to try and get nursing into a directorate, because initially we only had a one-man show who was the chief nursing officer. She was all by herself, and you can imagine everything that had to happen. She was the sole decision maker, and mostly the decisions she made never held water because of the patriarchal our patriotism, where people only want to be I think we should start.
Yeah, they can cut it out.
Okay.
I continue.
Okay. I was just going to say, since the chief nursing officers mostly were females, and in this male-headed world, it's not very easy for the females to get a breakthrough. So she always had challenges trying to even bring up the decisions, or even trying to say what the nurses want or would like to have. So it was always a problem. And for this many years, the former chief nursing officers had fought to have us as a directorate, until very late, when we just sat down as the entire nursing management, and we put up our request to continue with what the predecessors had left. And what we did, we had our proposal, and that proposal did not just go like this, like that. We also took our time to put up some job descriptions for the nursing directorate, and after that we also put up our suggested grading of how much we think these people should get. So when we put forth our proposal, because it had everything, I think this one time it fell into the ears that listened to us, and lo and behold, we told that the Ministry of Public Services approved that you become a directorate. So they first of all started by advertising the positions, and we applied for the positions. It was first the 3 positions, the position of the director of nursing services, and then after that it was the 2 positions of the deputies. So they had to first appoint the director, so that the director could be able to conduct the interviews for the deputies. So this is what happened. We went, the 3 of us, because every position is applied for by, or competed for by 3 people. So I got the position, and I became the first director of nursing services. This was in 2011 in June. Colleagues, it has not been a very easy road to be where we are today. We continue to push forth to make sure that we work to improve the nursing profession in Lesotho. Not only that, there are many projects that come up, and those projects are helping us to come together. There is one particular project that actually brought us together, and that is the African regulatory it's the African regulatory project. This, I think, brought us together because it was demanding that the Quad, which is nursing service, nursing education, nursing association, nurses association, and the council come together. And therefore, when the other projects, like the leadership in negotiation, which I love so much, I think when it came in, we were all prepared, and whatever came, we sell it to the rest of us so that we speak the same language. But initially, education would speak something else, while service speaks another thing. And then the association and the council looked like they were different branches, and yet we are all nurses. So now we have come together, and for all this I must thank all the partners who put up their efforts to make us come together and to make the nursing profession in Lesotho different. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I must say I thank you very much. And one thing that I think you should know is that in Lesotho we have a very lively wellness center, and it's because of the International Council of Nurses, it's because of Vårdförbundet, our friends from the Swedish Association of Health Professionals, and the work that they did with LO and TCO to get us to where we are. Long live LOTCO, long live ICN, and long live Vårdförbundet. We love you.
Thank you.